They say parenting is the hardest job you'll ever do, but grandparents of today believe the quality of raising children has deteriorated. A study by the Australian Seniors Series found nearly 3 in 5 surveyed believe parenting styles have worsened since they were bringing up children. And modern techniques will lead to a generation of less capable and less resilient kids. So to discuss this further, I'm joined now by parenting expert Claire Orange. Welcome, Claire.
Hi, Emmy.
Now, what are your thoughts on these findings?
Well, I think they're interesting findings, and certainly parenting, the face of parenting has changed, but I'm not sure it's changed that dramatically. I mean, there were quite catastrophic words coming out of that study about the way that we're parenting our children and the impact on their resilience. But, you know, I think in the whole, parents are doing pretty well with parenting, and there's certainly a space for more support and more education and probably a lot less shaming of parents out there.
How have the styles changed?
Well, I would say that, you know, if you think about the way that children are parented now, they're staying in school longer than, say, grandparents would have. They tend to have a lot more entitlement around privileges. They spend a lot more time on the screen and a lot less time doing practical things than, say, their grandparents would have done. That would have had an outcome. So a game doesn't really have something you can achieve by the end other than on screen. So I would say, you know, that there's a lot of differences in the way that they were parented. They were getting them ready for life much earlier than, say, we are with our children. But I'm not sure that there's right and wrong in that. There's just different.
Now, some grandparents are quite involved as parents head back to work earlier. Do you think that these grandparents would have a different view?
Yeah, I do. And you know, grandparent involvement requires its whole own conversation, but I think grandparents who are actively involved with grandchildren at least once in the week would have that personal contact of growing really lovely young people. And I think that would really change the way that they would see our young people today, and perhaps be a little less catastrophic around the use of screen time and you know, the rewards given in parenting. I think they would probably see it quite differently because they're part of the raising of the child.
Just on the use of screen time, do you think we tend to see a clash with grandparents over the use of technology?
Well, I think we see a clash with parents over the use of technology. So I think it's a given, of course, that grandparents are going to find it tough. And of course, most of our grandparents, even if they are a little bit techno-savvy, still grew up in an age where if they caught the bus home after school, of course, they would talk to each other. And our kids are sitting there, you know, chatting on the screen. And I think that does cause a clash, and the way that parents have to move around that, monitoring and managing that in homes would cause a clash, because the understanding of how important that world is for our children is probably not quite there.
What about the idea that modern parents use praise too much?
Sorry, Emmy?
What about the idea that modern parents use praise too much?
Yeah, and it is a concern. I think societally we do a lot of protecting children and probably need to do more preparing children. But, you know, we're busy, so getting children to do things quickly now when we need them to do requires praise and attention and all those things. And they probably were more expected in the time of our grandparents. You just did them. That was part of what you did. They're kind of seen as supplementary to family now. So, you know, praise is important. It's important for children, and we should be using it enough to motivate behaviour.
I certainly think you're right in that there's no right or wrong. But Claire Orange, thanks very much for coming in this afternoon.
Thanks, Emmy.